concept behind it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 11 of Paint Pros.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Had a little hiatus because, well, New York Comic Con just takes a lot of time, and we both couldn't get my schedule correct to find time to
All the
stream
schedules.
all the
Yeah.
schedules, right? Um, but for any of you guys who were at New York Comic Con, got to see a couple friendly faces that came by and had some great things to say. Had some fans of Paint Bros and stuff like that, so that was good. Made some new fans, hopefully.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
I'm really kind of bummed I didn't get to go to that one.
yeah.
I had too much stuff going on.
It,
Life was way too hectic and
yeah.
deadlines and
Oh, I'm sure.
just way too much.
It,
I
it's it's
had to make some concessions, and
mm,
unfortunately, that con is always such a bear.
it
Like
is.
getting there and everything else is just so much work. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna skip this year.
Yeah.
Um, so
I basically only had one night where I actually went out to grab dinner. The rest of it was like I need to focus on the convention itself. You really have to like pay
oh,
attention and be on your game.
that's the one con where you never sleep, really.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it's the city that never sleeps, but you never sleep, really.
yeah.
So
Uh, it was an interesting one because normally New York Comic Con on a regular year just starts off and you're just going 100 miles an hour
yeah,
because
nonstop.
because even on that Thursday you have people that only have Thursday tickets, and so they're only going to be there Thursday. So you have a lot of transactions and urgency and excitement that is there because they've been waiting for just that Thursday.
Yeah.
But it actually started off slow and then ramped up. Like Sunday was the one day where, in talking with a lot of people and the fans and stuff like that, it was like this felt like by Sunday it felt like New York Comic Con. Like the amount of people and the rush and the urgency to like get the things you always wanted that you were putting off and everything else like
Yeah.
that.
So,
There was a very touching moment as well.
oh,
They did the auction.
oh, right.
I don't know if you caught it. They did the auction and they had like a moment of silence and they did a dedication to Kibby.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that breaks my heart a little
Oh,
bit.
it did. When I learned about it the day before, I was like, "Oh, you are?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's the only right thing to do and everything." And I was like, I was getting choked up at my table. I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna
I
make you
don't
the
know if I could
best."
handle that. Yeah.
Oh, it was tough. We had to change the topic a little bit because I was like, "You're gonna get me choked up at my table." It's during the day.
Yeah.
Um,
Can't cry at the table, guys.
no,
Like,
no, that's big boy rules.
yeah,
Oh,
that's. I don't know if I
yeah.
could have handled that.
Uh,
That'd
for
have been it
those,
for me.
yeah, for those of you who don't know, Kibi, someone who died, passed away with COVID. Um, about
Really good friend of ours. Yeah.
almost a year ago. He was a very good friend of ours. He was a big Hellboy fan and comic book fan, and he worked
Larger than life. Yeah.
literally. And
Yeah.
but they had a
Probably the biggest guy that you've ever seen.
yeah,
Like seriously,
gentle giant.
you would walk into the room and you'd be like, okay, who's that redheaded mountain over there?
Yeah.
Um, the one that like towers over everybody and has the booming voice. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
that's Kibby.
Yeah.
He's actually a teddy bear.
Yeah. So they did it. They did a nice dedication to him and everything.
Yeah.
It was very very.
Hello, Ibrahim. How are you?
Ibrahim Ramos, first time arrival. You're streaming. Thank you. Glad to
So
have you on board.
today's episode, let's
Yes.
get to the topic at hand. Is
Yeah.
sketching,
Mm-hmm.
sketchbooks, prep work before you do pieces, and the practice of it. Like, it's something that over the years I've become more. The more work that I do for publishers and for people like that, the more you have to do preliminary work before they commit to the final piece.
Yeah.
So, and with commissions, I've started doing it as well. These little thumbnail sketches. Um, Now it's something that I've kind of built into my process where, anything over a certain size and a certain dollar amount, I'd throw in a couple of preliminary thumbnails that
Mm-hmm.
the in person gets to choose from,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there I kind of go forward with the actual piece. It saves me time if there's something, if I just give them a pencil sketch, a lot of times it's like not what they had in mind, or they this is a way for them to get a first glance at something before you actually commit to
Mm-hmm.
doing it in ink and watercolor and things that are more permanent. um, I keep books of these, and I have so many books of these, like little preliminary sketches of pieces to come, pieces in development, uh, things that people chose. Sometimes I'll, like for this one for instance, I sketched all this out and then scanned it in, and then digitally I went in and actually created all the areas for all the people. Um,
Right.
so I kind of moved people around. I played around with the scale and the size. This was the big X-Men piece that I did a while back. I'm actually, funny enough, doing another one right now. Um, so originally the window was only supposed to be here, and I scaled everything up, extended the borders of the entire piece, and added like 20 or 30 people.
Hmm.
Um, so it just became a what much bigger piece. This was that I did three different versions of this Grifter and Zealot piece. This was the one that we ultimately went with, a variation of this one at least. Um, it's funny because this pose was my favorite pose for Zealot at least.
Yeah.
Um,
The sword coming
and
out.
again, yeah, I just thought it popped more and it was like much more dynamic, but he didn't go for it. So yeah, I mean, I also do them for these were all pieces for individual, commissioners. Uh, and sometimes I give them to the commissioner, but usually I kind of keep these for myself. It's a way for me to kind of keep some piece of a piece.
Hmm.
Um, these are things that I do for Star Wars. So for tops and anything that I do for cards or covers for comics and things like that, I'll usually do them in these. What are these, 5x7 roughly? Uh,
Yeah, it looks like
this
five by
one,
seven right there.
yeah, I think that's what it is.
5.5 by 5.5 by 8.
Yeah, five. Yeah, exactly. 5.5 by 8.5.
Yeah.
These pretty much mimic the same ratio of the final art and what it needs to be. So I really can kind of use this as my template.
So
These
do you,
were
do you try to make sure that whenever you're doing your sketching for the final that you keep the ratio the same, or is
very
it?
much so, especially when it's stuff that it's approved by publishers. What I will actually do is once I sketch everything out like this, I'll use DVE, the DaVinci Eye,
Mm,
and superimpose this to get all of the major points down
right.
for the piece. And then from there, take it and let's see if I have one that's, let's see here. Let's get to the Kylo Ren. That's a good example. Here's actually, let's take Hera, for instance, Hera Syndulla. So this is one that I originally sent, and they liked the ship. They didn't like her and Chopper, which is the android. So they had me redo that one.
Hmm.
They wanted something that was much more fun, much more in tune with the character, and they wanted it a little bit more animated, like
Mm.
the character to be more anime, which is what the character is in the show.
So
Um,
for the other sketch that you had of her, like
yeah,
if you went through with that, like you have one hand that's leaning off the page. Is that something you would
right.
have like
No,
tweaked
that
in that shift,
that
or
would
is
have.
that
I might, but I probably wouldn't. I probably would have left it off the page.
okay?
These were sort of portraits. I mean, she kind of goes off the page on this one too.
Yeah.
So to show you kind of a before and after, this is the final art that was done for it. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see it. So I basically took this image, superimposed it over top of the paper
Hmm.
using the DaVinci Eye,
Hmm.
and then sketched out all of the little points. And then
Hmm.
from there, did the actual painting on this piece and moved away from the sketch altogether. Um,
So for those of us who don't know what Da Vinci Eye is, can you explain?
yeah, yeah. DaVinci Eye is a tool that artists use most of the time. It's used for practice, but I use it for professional use like this. It's something that allows you to superimpose an image into your camera over top of a
Like a
piece of
virtual
paper
reality thing, right?
in a VR environment. So you can look through your camera and trace over the image that you drew. You can also use it with photos, but it's primarily something that I use for this purpose right here. I'll sketch something out and then I need to enlarge it, or I need to make sure that I line everything up. And the reason that it's really important that I line things up in this instance, and I'll show you what it looks like. Uh, Give me one moment. I have it queued up here.
Other things that people might actually. So the DaVinci Eye is an app that's on your phone. So you look through the screen on your phone to do it. But some people might have a projector, so you might project it onto the paper, kind of a thing,
Yeah.
so you can scan it. And the thing about why you wouldn't use a light box, which is another common tool
So
that a lot of artists use, is that we work on thick blocks of paper, and so the light box wouldn't go through.
so your
Oh,
sketch actually has to turn into the image. So if it didn't line
nice.
up correctly, that effect wouldn't actually be there.
Did you know they were going to do this before, or is this
It's something that they kind of said that it needed to be kind of close. And now that
okay?
I know this for future pieces that I'm doing, it's definitely something that I'm really cognizant of.
Okay, got it.
So
That turned
like I
out
said,
really. That looks like it looks like it turned out very well.
oh, it turned out amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
the set was really really well received. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads, from the various versions, and
Hmm.
it was wildly successful. So uh, the other, I guess, here's another really good example of. No, actually, here let's use Kylo's a really good one. So this was the original sketch for it, and this was the final. Things that were altered,
Hmm.
originally. I don't know if you can tell. I'll zoom in here. I had Starkiller Base as the planet over here, and Lucasfilm didn't really want that as the image.
Okay.
So the planet had to change to Panan, which is another one of the worlds. Um, and then things like, well, when he was in this ship and that planet was in play, he had the cracked mask. He didn't really have the finished mask that was in the original sketch. So we went and added the red line cracked mask that was like fused back together.
Mm.
So yeah, there's like little things like that that deal with like chronology. Um, Here's another one where my original version of her was not as was a little bit too adult. Let's see if I have it in here. Yeah, so that was my original version, much more realistic, and we wanted to go back to what the anime, sort of not anime, but the more fun and playful version.
Hmm.
So before and after. Um,
Nice.
so yeah, a lot of these things are, you know, things like this. My likeness wasn't very good in my original sketch, and they wanted it to be really close to Glover. So that also got altered. Things like needed to
Eh,
make sure the number of vents were there. Um,
right.
so the sketch for that one also got lots of tweaks. And these are just things that happen in the process of making this kind of art. Um, my original sketch was kind of terrible.
So how what are some other things? Like obviously lighting. I see the white chalk and stuff like that, where you're trying to
Yeah,
identify direction of lighting.
exactly. You're
Making sure
always
it
looking.
fits on.
Yep.
Making
You're
sure.
making sure that the lighting is down. Like this is probably the better example of the lighting. Um, I mean, I can show you some of the others that were in there. This is another one that got tons of alterations. I did a lot of these
Hmm.
alterations digitally because we originally, this was the Gindi Tartovsky version of,
Hmm. Hmm.
and we originally wanted it to be more realistic. We wanted the entire set to be like live action.
Right, right, right.
So even the animated stuff, we originally wanted to do that. And as we got started into it, we were like, you know what? In order for it to really ring home, we should really make sure these versions match the versions that were in the shows, or at least be so close to kind of in between them that that you would know immediately that this is from that show.
Mm-hmm.
So we started making some of them more animated, and this one was definitely the biggest example of how it went from like, you know, point A to point B,
Right.
which let's see if I have it here. I do. Binders and binders of art. So yeah, the ultimate version of this one was the much more angular face,
Yeah.
much more animated,
Mm-hmm.
and original. And this is the original. So,
While
but
you're
yeah, it was.
sketching, are you thinking about all the colors that you're going to be using as well, or is it just primarily you're focusing on
You know,
like
not
value?
really.
Yeah.
Not really. I'm really whenever I'm doing these kind of sketches, the reason I do it in these value books is it's real easy for me to just do light and shadow, you know, to
Yeah,
do
and you're just
positive and
focusing on
negative.
that, right?
Originally, when we were trying to figure out exactly what each of the ships and pilots would be, we kind of played around with different ideas. Will the ship be flying? Will it be in the foreground? Will it be in the background? And
Right.
these are things that you really have to kind of
So,
play
so,
around with to see what you want.
so these are your sketches for the sketches that you just showed
Yep.
us.
These were, yeah, this exactly. This is like the thumbnail,
Yeah.
um, to try and figure out the layout for all of them going forward.
Mm,
Um, you know, I used Mando as the initial one because he was
mm,
going to be the hardest one to nail down because the
mm,
Razor Crest has such a weird design,
mm.
and ultimately his and Hera's were the two that have like really bizarre shapes.
Yeah.
The B wing is like a really long thing, and it kind of slices through anything that's in front of it. It's in
Yeah.
front of.
Yeah.
And the same thing with his. His is like, you know, it's wide, very wide. Most of the others typically are small. You can kind of put them in different angles so that they don't take up the entire space. Um, but yeah, his was the toughest one. Uh, but yeah, it was a really fun set to do though. Like all the various ships. Like I didn't really know much
Mm.
about the T-16, you know. So that was it was interesting. Other things that I do typically for publishers. These were covers. Give me 1 second. I'll actually get the final cover that was just sent. Yeah, there they are. So yeah, this was the cover. These were cover ideas for the new heavy metal comic Intrusion, and I did. It's a interesting comic because it's a concept where it's a flip book. It has two covers. So you read it one way, and then you flip it when you get to the middle, you flip it over and you read it the other way. And it's two different perspectives. So the first
Oh.
perspective is the monster's point of view, the second perspective is the human point of view.
Oh.
So
Interesting.
we tried to figure out different ideas for this one, and the big thing that we were after was, you know, we wanted to show two different angles. This was the monster's eye with people as the reflection,
Uh-huh.
and then it's the monster's reflection in a human eye. I really liked this one, but they didn't go for it. This was the one they ultimately went with, and these were the sketches.
And you took this
And
and transferred it as is, or do you redraw these?
no, these I redrew. Yeah,
Okay.
these I didn't do like size for size. I actually
Okay.
I didn't do Da Vinci Eye on these. These
Uh,
I had to kind of play around with the size a little bit differently. But
very
it was
cool.
interesting to see how, you know, what people went with, what they didn't. Um, Commissions, I typically do a lot of these, like thumbnails of what people want. They ended up going with this one. I
Hmm.
usually, you know, when they choose one, this was an interesting one. They went with he went with this one, but I really liked this one. Like this
Right.
one would have been really cool to show like the city down below, and uh, it would have had like a Vertigo sort of feel to it.
Hmm.
Eventually, I'm gonna do this one. Someone will commission me to do another one, and I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm not gonna give you a thumbnail choice. I'm doing this one. Um, I think I did this one for somebody, but then they wanted the background changed. And, this is one that I'm currently working on right now. That's a much larger piece. It's huge. It ends up splitting down the middle. This was a bad idea. This is not the one that we ended up going with. We ended
Mm.
up going with something much larger. Um, let's
So
see
it seems
here.
like every page of this little sketchbook has something cool on it. Have you torn out pages? Have you been like, this one's
As I said, I occasionally someone will want something. This is I can't show you that yet. Uh, Occasionally someone will want something, and I will give them a. This is a fantasy novel cover that I just recently did,
mhm.
or I'm sorry, sci-fi.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is a commission that I'll be posting up soon. Which one do you think they went with?
Well, I know which one they went with.
This is one where it was like, it's Galadriel,
Yeah,
at the fountain in Lothlorien, or I'm sorry, at her mirror,
their
and
mirror.
yeah,
Yeah, the one with even you even got the leaves correct on this one because you're a
oh
stickler
yeah,
for all
yeah,
things Lothlorien.
oh man, oh big time. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I have in here that I can show. Thought there might be, but there's a lot of stuff I can't show in here.
Yeah. So,
So that's that. The other thing that I wanted to go through, and then I'm going to let you take over,
uh,
uh, is so long ago I used to do sketches for pieces that were concepts, and I would literally make like crazy crib notes. This was for Vampire Anatomy, and
right.
I thought there would be cycles to the changes that would happen once you became a vampire. So I had the first step of the cycle, the changes that would happen, stage one, stage two, and then stage three, and stage three is like you're way far gone. Um, so then I started looking at Da Vinci sketchbooks, and
Oh yeah, I
oh,
have one of his
I have
sketchbooks.
tomes.
Yeah,
I have a master tome that costs
yeah.
way too much money. That is a
Yeah.
collection of all of his sketchbooks.
Is it like a
Um,
2.5 inch like
oh man, it's way thicker than
bigger
that.
than that one?
It's
Okay, I have like a two
oh
and a half
yeah,
inch.
this one is like it's like that thick. I can barely like it was so heavy. When I ordered it, it was like I was like I ordered a book that was like 8.5 pounds. Are you kidding me? Like what is that? Um, yeah, it's crazy. Uh, so yeah, that's my well, 1 second. I'm gonna open back up the chat. It, disappeared for a moment there. Here we go. Um, let's see here. So this was me trying to figure out the actual anatomy. And a lot of times I do problem solving like this whenever I'm working on pieces. I'll try
Mhm.
and figure out how blood flow worked. Why do they have canines that, become larger? And for me, I kind of used it as like the canines are basically like needles, like hypodermic needles, and it's goes directly to their heart, and it's like a pumping mechanism.
Mm.
So they puncture and then they literally drain you that way. Uh,
This looks like a page from like a Grey's Anatomy book or
yeah.
something like that.
This is more into like the stage three where,
Yeah.
they start growing wings and other things. Like basically they start becoming much more bat like, and how that works and how the anatomy functions, and, at what point does this happen. And this is like, 10 years into being a vampire type thing. Again, this was all stuff that I was trying to invent for a book series. Um, how their claws sort of function and work. How they climb on walls.
Hmm.
And these are just my doodles trying to figure all this out, how their jaws can almost unhinge because you can't actually bite someone's neck. I don't know if you've actually like tried to put your mouth around something that large. It actually doesn't work.
Yeah.
Unless your jaw can actually unhinge, that is physically impossible to
So
take a bite, so
so
to
do you
speak.
reference like snakes and other reptiles that
Exactly.
get to this?
I was looking at reptiles and how their jaws unhinge and how that functions. Um, I had all sorts of sketches for pieces that never happened. Uh, there was a long time there where I would literally doodle all the time. This is from the myth of Tristan and Isolde. Oh,
Who's that vampire?
I don't know. Yeah, I used to once a year do a personal self portrait, and I don't do that anymore, but I used to. Uh,
Because then you
Friends, a lot
realize
of
you never
times.
age.
Yeah, I know, right? A lot of times, friends of mine will pose for things that I have ideas for.
Mm.
Sometimes, let's see, what else do I have in here? This was for a fantasy novel that I was trying to figure out. The
How to
woman in the
make a
novel
helmet.
had a dragon helm, and I was like, how would that even work? Because dragons are supposed to be huge, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it would literally be like the size, like it wouldn't be way bigger. And it's like, well, it's like a baby dragon, and I'm like, okay. It just never really worked out for me. I didn't really care for
Yeah.
it. Um, I ended up changing it so that it was something else. Um, I had a sci-fi novel, and I did a lot of stuff for game developers over the years, and it was mostly like ships. I did a lot of like first-person shooter ship things,
Mhm.
um, where you could level up your spaceship. I don't know how much of that is in here, but I used to have a ton of it. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would also do things where it would go to digital. Like I would start off in here as a sketch, and then it would move into digital. So this was for my comic that I did with DC that's called Azure. And this is the pencil sketch that I would scan in and then do everything else in color right over top of the pencil.
Mhm.
Um, but it started off as just a kind of a loose idea and went from there. So I mean, this is kind of the stuff that I did.
Yeah.
Over the years, I kind of transitioned into doing stuff like this, which I became more obsessed with like finished work and finishing off pieces as opposed to making pieces that are more loose. I've gotten to the point now where all that kind of preliminary stuff, with the exception of the thumbnails I still do, but the sketching for me, I don't do too much of it anymore unless it's a really big piece that I want to kind of do
Right.
lots of studies around. It would have to be huge, and it would also have to be something that was very lucrative, because
Over.
time
Mhm.
is money
Yeah.
now.
So over
Like
the years, you'd say like you've internalized the sketching process, right? You
I have.
is
I've
that
gotten to the point where that's mostly in my head.
yeah.
I don't think as much about it because of this kind of stuff, which is daily pieces. Like
Hmm.
if you do a piece every day, that internal sort of thing happens on the page, and you're more interested in like carrying it to its final form. At least that's what I end up doing.
Hmm.
These were all doodles that I ended up just like carrying to finish, as opposed to stopping at the sketch phase. I don't. I mean, the only time that I'll sketch now is um, if I do like live art, uh, meaning I go to doing like a live model study or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll sketch when I do that, but it's become more rare because now I'll hire a model for a particular piece,
Right.
and I have an end goal in mind already. I'm
Hmm.
not really after that, like
Mo- mo-
well, I'll
mo-
figure it out.
yeah, most of your sketches become the final versus
Yeah,
staying as a separate study.
it also started getting to the point that everyone wanted to buy the sketches, and
Yeah.
I could make more money off of the sketches if they were more finished.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's sketching in my world now.
Yeah. Um,
So
for me, a lot of my sketching has converted into. Let me switch over here.
oh, I could show one other thing
Sure,
really
sure.
quick, and it'll be the last thing, and then so this that one that I showed you guys earlier that was the big piece. So this is what I ended up doing, and I can actually show you it in progress. Uh, let's see here, video. So this is I took the sketch,
Ah, yes. What is this? Procreate?
yeah, and then basically blocked out pieces, blocked out people. My thought process here was trying to figure out exactly who all I needed to include, who were the power people that I absolutely had to have.
Hmm.
So these two had to be in there. These two were front and center. She was the third biggie. And then I just kept expanding the piece to larger and larger format.
Hmm.
Um, like that red line right there is not
Yeah.
actually the red line that was used. I ended up like zooming way out with it.
Oh, okay. So everyone got a little bit smaller.
So yeah, I started like, listing all the ones that were original. Well, the thing is, all of these were here. And then the client was like, you know what? Let's go even bigger. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can zoom out. And then he added like five more people and four more people and,
Oh, jeez.
fleshed out the scene even more. People in the background, giant tree head in the background. It just became so much more than it was. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, that's other pieces like this that I've done. Um, do you remember those? That's a good example. Monsters and Dames.
Yes.
So, Monsters and Dames is a art book that the Seattle Emerald City Comic Con puts on,
Yeah.
and
This is
every
the
year we have different pieces that we develop for the art book that they do. And this was one year's
the
piece
pro.
that I was messing around with to try and figure out what to do, the
Yeah.
scene. Um,
The proceeds from that book go to the Seattle Children's Hospital. So it's always a good
exactly.
one. And so here is one of the few things that I've seen you like try to figure out the color of the light. You're playing around with
Yeah,
that in this one.
this was a tough one because I wanted to push back certain elements. So I really started playing around with the entire, from a design standpoint. This thing was too much in the foreground, covered up all these guys, so I needed to
Hmm.
move him back. Um, there's a lot of messing around with, how your eye kind of moves around a scene.
Yeah.
Uh, I actually did a few of these. Let's see here. I thought there was another one on here, but I might have wiped it off. This was the other one? Yeah. I think this was a variation of this one was the one that I actually ended up using. So this one started off very different.
This is a some insight
So I
into your
started off being
how your
yeah, I
how
started
your
off doing a
mind
horizontal, and then
exploration.
they and the nice thing is you can layer elements and then move it
Yeah.
back. Um,
Yeah. That's the great part
and
about doing the sketches digitally. If you're
yeah,
because when you were doing your Star Wars stuff, it was basically two elements, right? You
yeah,
have the ship and you have the
exactly.
character behind it. And the more elements you sort of have to figure out, that's where digital, I think, becomes a little more useful because you can just shift and resize
Yep.
things a little bit easier.
A lot of times, if I'm doing really bizarre things, I will photo montage things to try and figure out how to make it work. Another good example of that, I guess, would be this one. So I was trying to figure out like shapes for a sphinx
Mm-hmm.
and how the person would work into all, like a lion body and a person, they do not mix at all. Like it doesn't
Right.
work like a centaur because felines and a feline centaur is a very weird looking thing. Like the anatomy doesn't work and it wouldn't move the same way. Um, like it's just it would not function.
Right.
Like you would
Right.
have to do something kind of weird, especially when
Right.
you add wings. It's like it would be way too weighted in a way that wouldn't make sense. Um, so it's a really strange character that I was trying to figure out, and I would do photo montages to try and figure out the anatomy and how that would actually function. Um, this was a Ebenezer Scrooge piece that I really wanted to do for a holiday card, and I think we're gonna do. I'll probably do this as my holiday card for this year. So I had a Christmas Carol sort of idea in mind, and I wanted like an orphanage, and he was reading A Night Before Christmas or something to that effect to an orphanage, and you would have like all the
Oh, you are
various.
you are just killing yourself on this one.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it was murder. Yeah, yeah. There's a reason I didn't do it last year because I was like, oh my god, what am I doing?
What am I
Um,
doing?
yeah, let's just add 1,000 kids. That sounds like
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. Add a few more. There's random
Yeah,
limbs hanging from the
yep.
balcony.
But it was a cool idea, and I'll probably
No,
do
it
this
is.
as
It is really
yeah,
cool. I'm just saying, you're killing yourself.
yeah. Oh, I'm notorious for that. You know that.
I know that.
So this was a tavern piece that I did for somebody. Um, and they have a D&D group that they play with all the time, and they wanted individual like people from the group, and I was trying to figure out the layout for it. I actually did a few different ones. This was one of two or three that I ended up developing. um, Trying to think of what else I've done where I've like moved things around. Those are some good examples.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll briefly go into a little bit of a lot of my sketching as of late comes from I end up doing digitally. I use Clip Studio, and I just created a sort of a book for this stuff. And well, I do this on my desktop, not on my tablet, right? And so like I'll throw in like, oh, this was like, I'll keep my references in there, but let's see here. There you go. So you see some of my rough sketches, and also sometimes if it like this one, I wanted to sketch out because the lightning I wanted to kind of figure out and see and get the shading down, right? Because she's red, but I wanted the lightning to be really bright blue, and so digitally I'm able to kind of figure this stuff out a little bit easier. Um, and then uh, playing with colors. So this one was a Superman Blue Lantern piece. Oops, here it is. But yeah, I kind of just, let's see here. I have no idea what the order in some of these things are. But kind of like you, where you have tone paper. I simulate that. I simulate that digitally. I just be like, okay, here's my line work. Let's put a tone background. Let's add some like highlights or something like that to kind of see what's going on here. Um, uh, so this, yeah. Let's see. Let's just pick a few. Yeah. Right. So I think this one ended up being kind of the basic pose for it. And for me, I actually have a small mini projector that projects down, and so I could take this, project it down onto my page. Um, Yeah, yeah. Yours is just more mobile than mine. Or even just playing with colors. Like I remember having this guy in the foreground with someone that was something. You can see how fuzzy he is in line work because I just you know cropped him and stuff like that. Um, let's see here. I do once in a while create like uh, I saw you show it, so I actually had this lying around. I don't remember what this was from, but this was a particular sort of like value slash color palette that I wanted to use for a particular piece, and I was like, I found these everything from Sunset, from I think this is what Alex Ross probably or something. Um, but I like that orange to purple, that purple orange glow and stuff like that. So I just found a bunch of images that kind of had that lighting or the values that I wanted, and I kept this around. And again, I don't remember what piece this was for, but I happen to still have it put together in sort of that concepting. Um, yeah, yeah, right. So let's see here. Um, I wanted to show. Mhm. Um, so these were some concepts and sketches for the Arkham Dreams cover that I kind of sent out, uh, and uh, obviously the logo was the logo work on the cover was pretty large, so I had to make sure that everything kind of fit within that. So a lot of my sketches kind of happened, or I took some of it was scanned in like quick watercolor thing. I did like some watercolor studies as well, just to make sure, like just to have an idea of like the colors I would use for the characters. And then I scanned it in and kind of put it and kind of played around with um, some of the layouts and things like that. Right? And eventually they picked this concept, right? So this was the initial digital sketch for that. And once they picked that, I digitally just kind of created a real quick. This I spent like 15-20 minutes just exploring like the shading and lighting and the color palette. Things like the cast shadow of of the cape over the arms or things like that. Just um, kind of just getting the hue of things. Nothing crazy. And then yeah, when it hits a certain, I think it is a certain price point, a certain professional quality, right? Like if which was generally lays the price point, but this was a cover, so I just really wanted to make sure I had all my ducks in a row. And also, there was a very short turnaround time for this. So from when they gave me the okay on the sketch, um, I I had like 2 or 3 days to get them to final. Um, and so I really wanted to have, and I make sure that the idea in my head wasn't. Sometimes when you're painting, and especially with watercolor, it's a little bit exploratory, right? You're just like, oh, I'm going to put this in, let it dry, see what happens, and then I'm going to build on top of that. But this one definitely, I wanted to like make sure that I knew what I was trying to get, and this is sort of the final for that piece, right? So we're kind of so we can kind of put them next to each other or something. But, but yeah, so a lot of the same like sketching concepts that you're doing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I had I had the basic idea of like where my lights was coming from, what problem areas I might have earlier on, you know, uh, tangent things like the knee. I pushed the knee a little bit forward to make sure that it wasn't going to tangent at all. So they had a foreground background overlap and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I think this is the stuff that I think a lot of people don't get a chance to see behind the scenes, and sometimes people feel that you just, when they see us at conventions, right? We just like, okay, you want that? Like, let's just go in, or they see us just like start painting right away or Sharpie markers and just like, okay, no pencils, what? Um, yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a different mode. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think complexity is the other thing. Like, and obviously that has something to do with the price point. But if there's lots of little uh, figures or elements to move around, like I'll pause for a second and be like, okay, let's do a quick thumbnail or sketch it out or whatever else. Or even at conventions, I'll have a little scrap paper once in a while. Like, okay, do I want to do this or this? And it might be a like 6 or 7 lines that no one will understand exactly what that means except for me, but that works and that helps. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All right. So what? We've been on for about an hour, so we can do a couple of sketches. Let me.
Is give us some things that you want us to thumbnail or to sketch out, and we will show you how fast they typically come together and
Yeah.
do. I'll probably do two of each one,
Yeah.
just because I usually do that when I'm thumbnailing for people. Um,
Let me get my
so
stuff.
any sort of ideas, any sort of characters, something of that nature, shoot us a note.
I lost my chat. Hold on.
Oh, my chat's up. Um,
Where did my chat go?
and these are probably going to be like 10-minute pieces. Um, we typically don't spend too much longer than that because, as I mentioned earlier, time is money. It's just not worth it for us to, spend a lot of time on each individual one.
All right. We did have one earlier from Totes Cokes.
Oh, what did he
Um,
say?
he said, I'm always partial to angels with unreasonably epic wings.
All right, marching orders.
I need,
Angel with unreasonably epic wings.
yeah, I
That's a
need,
very specific one.
yeah, I gotta pull out some paper. Gotta
That's all right. I need
find it.
I need to figure out where I actually put my pencil. It's like the one thing I don't seem to have.
You can sketch without pencils.
It actually makes sense. Oh, there it is.
um, do I have my tone? I forget
And
where my
again,
tone
things
paper is.
things like speeding this process up, it happens by doing them a lot. An angel
Yeah.
with epic wings.
I can't find my tone paper. Where did my tone sketchbook go? Blast it. All right. You're gonna have a head start. I'm gonna see if I can find it real quick.
So, angel with epic wings. I think that the brush pens are also something that that helps with a lot of this kind of sketching. Except when they're dying, like that one. So for me, the pose is probably number one, and then lighting is number two in
Right.
terms of like things that I'm thinking about whenever I'm doing this kind of stuff.
All right, I am back. I found some tone paper.
I find that tone paper works really well for this stuff just
Yeah.
because it allows you to explore light and shadow a little bit better than the non-tonal stuff. But this is when, you know, a lot of the problem solving usually happens is in this stage. Um,
Hmm.
the stuff that actually like makes or breaks a piece.
And this is also you're developing. One of the things I always say with watercolor is your underdrawing needs to have a certain level of confidence, and so the more you
Yeah,
sketch on something, because you're not going to be able to change. Watercolor is a medium that you don't want to make changes halfway through. You can get away with some minor changes with acrylic and oil paints and stuff like that. Be like, oh, we're going to change X, Y, or Z.
yeah.
But in watercolor, you really want to make sure that you are confident in the direction you're going, which is another thing why sometimes I do the sketches digitally or whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm going in this direction for this large and complex.
A lot of times, what I will do is take. I mean, you mentioned watercolor. I'll take a lamp black and actually, for my shadows in particular, if I want to show a shadow, I will go through and actually do all the shading and add shadows for the wings and whatnot. Um, but all using watercolor. It lets me create a third value without spending too much time on it.
Oh, this one I might.
Another thing, hey, how's it going, Darren? Hey, Bob. Let's
Darren,
invite Bob
Bob,
up
what's
while
up,
I post
Bob?
in. The white pen that I used was a Signo, Uniball Signo, wide. They are the most effective white pens available, in my opinion. And also, when you're doing stuff like this, don't be afraid to use the negative space. In other words, this is where you can really play with that negative space to make things positive. So the wings, I'm not even going to draw the wings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to use the negative space to create the shape of the wings, which is all I'm really interested in here.
Well, that's also something I think in watercolor to remember too, is that sometimes you end up painting the negative space to pop out whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, should rotate my camera down a little bit. There we go. It's like just adding that little bit of gray. It's like the wings are already really well defined. I also use kind of everything in the under the rainbow for. I use pencils. I use But I try to stick with black and white whenever I'm at this stage. I don't try and do anything color. Um, I'll take it into the computer to do any sort of color work,
Yeah, I
just
agree. At
because.
this point, you're trying to do structure. You're trying to think
Yeah,
of maybe a little bit of lighting and value. Value is the big one, right?
yeah, that's I'd say that's the most important. So I'm on to my second.
Well, I started late.
Uh huh. I gotta razz him while I can. Tote says Secure also makes a pretty snazzy white pen called the Jelly Roll. Jelly rolls are not as opaque though.
No,
They are not. I have those too, and they do not have the same opaque as one of these guys. These guys will literally white. They will draw on a black surface, and
yeah.
it will be a pure white. Um, let's see here. So do something kind of close up. Actually, I'll zoom down so you guys can see. I'm working small, so it makes no sense. There we go.
Where? Oh, my white pen. We'll use it. I can't find my signal right now. I don't want to leave it anymore, but we're going to use some whiteout.
There we go. We're being very quiet, so we should probably talk over them.
I just realized that. I'm like, wait, I haven't said anything a little bit, and neither has Dan.
Yeah. So yeah, as the viewership, it's funny how when we don't talk, people drop off.
Yeah.
Um, like it literally works that way. Uh, so
Well,
right now, I am quickly roughing out. Like, do I want armor? Do I want? I'm not as worried about the. I'm more worried about the vibe. I guess that's the thing that I'm after here on this. Like, I want the anger, the rage, the um, like what this angel is feeling.
mhm.
Is he armored? Is he? I'm envisioning like an archangel, a war oriented.
Yeah, I'm trying to just get something that looks like it.
Thinking weapon of God.
I'm just I grabbed this big brush just because I wanted to kind of put some tone
Yeah.
kind of cloud textures on, and it accidentally had a little bit of red in it left over, so that's what's going to be on here. But there you go. We got.
I usually do much more extreme lighting whenever I'm doing thumbnails
Mm-hmm.
than I typically would. So for this instance, I'm gonna make like a ton of stuff in shadow. I'm gonna make like give him a flaming sword. Where's my white gouache?
Just trying to hint at some sort of armor on this. Not really thinking about what. Trying to get the angle of this arm.
This is white gouache that I'm sort of playing with here. And then envisioning two sets of wings again.
All right. That'll be one quick one, and then.
I am now just about done with my second.
Damn it!
What's the next topic? So
I don't
Tony can
know.
get a leg up. Let's give Tony a head start.
I wanted to do one with like the other idea that I had was kind of an angel plummeting to the
Plummeting.
ground,
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
and so the wings would be trailing behind it, kind of a thing.
And this
Um,
this is a good example of why, like with sketching, you can do thousands of these to come up with different ideas. This is where you kind of let yourself go, just totally, as Darren puts it, zen out. So yeah, the are you doing another one seriously?
I was trying. If we
Come on.
don't have one, what's
Any
the other one?
ideas for our next one?
I mean, that's how and it's so how partial I am to washes and sketches. How's everyone
Wow.
doing? We need some prompts. Our first prompt was uh
Angels
basically
with crazy
angels
wings.
with crazy wings, and so here, I'll
So what I would
do
typically
that.
do is number these 1 and 2, and then send these off to the client to check out and give me notes on. I mean, I would usually spend a little bit longer on these if I was doing it for a particular piece. This is just, you know, us kind of jamming.
Yeah,
You can choose anything, yeah.
anything.
Hi, hey, B-boy Nate. Everybody's doing good. Could watch all day, but have to run. Beautiful as always. Thanks, Bob. I got stuff coming to you, dude. We're gonna do an episode on taxes. at some point, but it needs to be a little bit further past today
Yeah,
because yeah,
it's too real.
yeah, I'm feeling taxes. I had my quarterlies and my yeah. Being a freelancer sometimes,
Quarterly suck.
man, everything sucks when it comes to taxes. Not a single good thing about taxes. Um, so anywho, does anybody have another idea?
All right.
We've got enough time for I think one more.
One more concept. So this
Yep, one
one,
more concept. Throw it out, and we will doodle it up. All right, I'm gonna throw one out because
yeah,
everybody's super silent.
yeah, you guys.
Total lack of ideas. Cyborg, Deuce X style. Can do a cyborg.
We
You
do
want to do a
cyborg.
cyborg?
We do cyborg.
Uh, let's just do one because
Okay.
yeah, you're not real fast.
Oh, I gave you like a 5 minute head start.
Oh, is that what we're going for? Okay. All right, cyborg it is. Um, let's see here.
Give us an
Yeah,
adjective
actually,
before cyborg. Like,
no,
no.
yeah,
You
give
just
us
go.
give us a mood.
Give us a mood. Give us an adjective.
Yeah, tell us a mood, and I'm gonna let Tony get a like 1 or 2 minutes.
Oh. Anyone? Mood. I'm just gonna look up the word of the day.
Oh, really?
Oh, no one's
It's
gonna give
probably
it
gonna
to
be
us.
something super weird.
Human cyborg. Human's
The
not a
the word
mood.
of the word of the day is melancholy. Good luck.
Well, there you go. A melancholy cyborg. You can do something with that.
Oh, I'm gonna let you start. Go.
All right. Cyborg with a gun. All right. I guess that's what we're doing. Where did I put my pencil down?
Pissed off.
Pissed off. There you
Yeah.
go.
You far in?
Yeah,
How
go
you
for it.
doing? How
Yeah.
you doing? You good? You
Oh
good?
yeah, you you are such a. I almost don't miss doing conventions with you. You know.
Oh, you do. I just because I know.
All right, so I'm just gonna kind of take the gun and blow it up. I, brush pens are great for this um, if you can get comfortable with controlling the line weight because it gives you so much like depth of speed, like to like fill in some black areas or to go really fine. And you don't have to be Browning, ready to do some damage. Reference anything in a game called Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I remember the first Deus Ex game, which was pretty fun. Is the sequel? I'm assuming the sequel is just as good, Darren. I can hear Dan just furiously trying to catch up and be like, "Okay, Tony." Dan's like on a mission. I can sense it.
Nah, nah, you're good. You're
Yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah. Yo, you good. You good. You good. You got this, Tony. You got
I'm 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 nowhere near as far in as you are.
this. Yeah. Uh huh. I haven't even looked. But I highly doubt that. Dan, for those of you who don't know, when Dan practices still lifes, he does still lifes of lightning bolts. That's how fast. Versus Deus Ex Human Revolution, that was epic, very detailed game. That was like on like the PlayStation 2 or something.
Hey, Opal, can you chill?
How often do you like this might be something where I look for like reference and stuff like that, but how often do you just like, you know what? Screw reference. I'm gonna
It's I say screw reference. I would say fairly often. At this stage, well,
yeah,
at this
yeah.
stage, what I'll do is I'll find something I dig, and then like here, and then I'll try and find something that matches what I sketched.
Ah,
Does
got
that
it.
make sense?
Yeah, so
Um,
you'll do the concepting here and then be like, okay, I
Now I
actually
gotta
do need
find like, yeah,
yeah, the specific maybe metal or
yeah.
textures or
I'll
things
look
like
for
that.
that. Most of the time, I'm more looking for, like, I mean, it's sometimes I'll look for textures. Sometimes I'll look for
Mhm.
um, things of that nature. But most of the time, I'm looking for like man with his head bent down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Grizzled cowboy. Things
Mhm.
of that nature.
Yeah, I might look up right now some reference on just a foreshortened forearm just to get the muscles correct and because cyborgs I'm exchanging my human anatomy knowledge for like technology shapes, right?
Yeah.
Technological shapes. So like, oh, this muscle becomes a cord or some piece of metal tubing or something like that.
So right now I'm trying to figure out. I like anything that I start off at this sketch phase to kind of tell a story.
Hmm.
That's my main thing. Like I want to make sure that you know the vibe is coming across for this particular. Like I wanted him to be kind of like a cowboy on the Wild West, but he's all
Hmm.
like, "Damn rustlers." I'll probably have something sticking out of his mouth.
Oh no, my hand mirrored something. Oh well. We'll go with it.
Cyborg cowboy.
What do you guys think so far?
Hey, Opal.
Oh, this Opal's a little sad.
Yeah, she's like, I can hear you.
What's your schedule? When do you want to do another one of these?
That's a really good question, actually. I have a stupid amount of very tight deadlines over the next
Yeah.
week or two. Um, I free up. I mean, I can make time. So,
Okay. I will be leaving for Baltimore Comic Con on Friday morning.
so why don't we do one uh, Thursday if that works for you?
Yeah. Do we want to try to double up at all, or wait till the following
I'm fine with that.
week?
I could do that.
Because we missed one the week of, didn't we?
New York, yeah.
Yeah, we missed one the week of New York. So, do you have certain soundtracks that you'll play for to get you into the mood and stuff? I've heard of artists that will create like, hey, I'm gonna be working on this painting for like a week,
Yeah.
and they will create a soundtrack, and that's what they'll listen to the entire week.
I'm not quite like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, I I have friends that do that too, and they're
yeah,
nuts.
yeah, right.
I
and
don't do
we
that.
and we love you all if you do it. That's perfectly
Yeah.
fine. But you're
I
nuts.
mean, if I have certain playlists that are like, if I really have
Yeah,
to like get a lot of work done in a very short period of time, I'll have
yeah.
some playlists that are like, um, I have two or three ones that like a get up and go. It's like, okay, you literally have to like draw your face off right now because of your timelines. And it's like a lot of techno. It's a lot of stuff that like has like crazy beats and rhythms.
Right, right, right.
But that's the only stuff that I like, and it's kind of nuts. Like I actually have to turn it off periodically just because it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
my heart rate is way too high right now. It's like I just drank like 8 tons of coffee.
uh, Tony, yours has a lot of great detail. Dan, I see what you're doing, and that is awesome. Amazing what comes out of all your brains. Woohoo, Baltimore! Did you see the Boba Tea Fett costume? Yes, I did, and I wish I saw it in person. I only saw it on social media, but that was pretty awesome.
All right. Well, I'm done. How are you doing, Tony?
I can be done.
I got to give him a hard time.
Uh,
Hey, Opal, chill.
hand in here. Do that as one or
All right. I'm gonna call that one finito.
yeah.
Yeah, I lost the chat.
You lost the cat.
Yeah.
Need to look up photos on Instagram. It was awesome. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Did you see the boba tea?
Yeah, someone did Boba Fett, and then like all his weapons were like Boba teas,
Yeah,
and his
that's
helmet
funny.
was like a big Boba straw. So
I'm
it
not
was a
even
good
gonna tell you what
it was a good play on words.
I'm not even gonna tell you what I'm currently working on. Um, yeah. Well,
All
listen,
right,
guys, this
there
has
we
been
are.
incredibly fun. Uh, Thank you for another wonderful episode. It was really enjoyable to kind of go down memory lane in a little way.
Yeah, going through all those like sketches and stuff.
Yeah.
There you go.
If you guys have any questions, again, please post them in the comments. We will do our best. We actually have a couple that we need to respond to.
Okay.
I saw on the feed, but thank you for dropping in and sending us notes. If you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments. And also feel free to shoot us a note on social media. On
Yeah.
Instagram, I'm just Daniel Govar, my name. Um,
Yeah. Or just tell us how much you like this like this episode, like this show.
yeah.
It doesn't
Do
have to
you
be
like
anything
this?
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like this kind of episode? This was a little different than our usual
Yeah.
because we kind of inverted the stages that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this was more of a instructing on process than anything else. I think the next one that we do is probably going to be a little bit different. We don't like to do the same episode, so
Right.
yeah.
But we may come back and visit us again in a little while. It's not a big. We can have some fun with it. I tuned in late, but it's cool. Thank you, Darren. When is episode 12? Right now, episode 12 looks like what you said Thursday or
Yeah, I think so. We'll either
okay.
do Wednesday or Thursday. We might do two next week, depending
Yeah.
upon our stamina.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to we'll touch base, but most likely we'll have one at least on Thursday, and then
Yeah,
if we do a second one, episode 12 and 13 could be next week.
indeed.
So, but everyone else out there, thank you
Yeah,
so much.
Enjoy.
Here's our takes on cyborg with a gun. We got a little cowboy cyborg and a more fully rendered cyborg going on here. So, yes. Have a great day, Dan. Enjoy your weekend. I hope you have some fun plans.
Hey, you too. Unfortunately, I have lots of work all weekend. I've booked myself up in a tough way, and I want to get a lot of stuff in the mail for commissioners that have been very patient as I do conventions and everything else. So those people out there that are waiting for their pieces,
Yeah.
just note that I am now over my hump of
Yes.
crazy commissions and or conventions and deadlines
Yeah.
for publishers.
I still have two more crazy conventions, so I'm a
I'm
glutton.
not taking any
Yeah.
on because I knew
Yeah.
I had way too full of a schedule. So
All right.
I
All
will see
right.
you guys. Ta
Take care.
ta. Take it easy, Tony. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.